Welcome back, folks. Just before we begin, it's a fun idea if you comment with your location. Thanks a bunch. Please like and subscribe. Let's get cozy and start the session. The music is loud, almost too loud, but that's how these work parties always are. People are drunk, laughing, their voices blending with the bass thumping through the floor. I'm standing near the bar, nursing a whiskey. It's my third, maybe fourth. I've lost count, but I need it. The tension in the room is palpable, though I'm not sure anyone else feels it. Or maybe they do, and they're just better at hiding it. Rebecca's across the room, laughing with a group of my colleagues. She's stunning tonight, wearing a dress that clings to her curves, turning heads every time she moves. I should feel proud, maybe a little smug that she's my wife. Instead, there's this gnawing unease in my gut. Something's off, but I can't put my finger on it. We've been married for 5 years, and lately things between us have been different, distant. I take another sip, the whiskey burning as it goes down, and watch her. She's always been the life of the party, effortlessly charming, but there's a coldness to her smile tonight that I can't shake. She's been secretive, slipping away to take calls, coming home late from work with vague excuses. I've tried to ignore it, chalk it up to stress, but the doubt lingers, festering like an open wound. Richard, my boss, is making his way over to me, his face flushed from too much alcohol. He's always been a bit of an ass, but he's powerful, the kind of man you don't want to cross. I force a smile as he approaches, my grip tightening around the glass. "Enjoying the party?" he asks, clapping a hand on my shoulder. His grip is firm, too firm, and there's something in his eyes that sets off alarms in my head. "Yeah, it's great," I reply, trying to sound casual, but my voice comes out flat, lifeless. I glance over at Rebecca again, and she's looking back at me, her expression unreadable. Richard leans in closer, his breath reeking of whiskey. "Listen, there's something I need to talk to you about." I nod, waiting, the dread pooling in my stomach. He smiles, but it's not a friendly smile. It's the kind of smile that says he knows something I don't, and it's going to hurt. "Tomorrow," he says, his voice low, "your wife is going to go on vacation with me, or you're fired." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I stare at him, disbelief freezing me in place. But before I can respond, Rebecca speaks up from behind me. "I agree," she says, her voice cold, detached. My world tilts on its axis, the room spinning around me. I look at her, searching her face for any sign of the woman I married, but she's gone, replaced by a stranger. The room falls silent, the noise of the party fading into the background. I can't breathe, can't think. Without a word, I turn and walk out, the weight of betrayal crushing me. I stumble out of the room, my mind a whirl of disbelief and anger. The air outside the party is cold, biting through my suit as I pace in the dark, empty parking lot. My hands are shaking, a mix of rage and hurt that I can't contain. I should leave, go home, but I can't let it end like this. Not after what they just did. I dig into my pocket, feeling the small metallic object I've been carrying for weeks now. I never thought I'd need it, never wanted to believe that Rebecca could betray me like this. But here I am, standing outside the party, holding a hidden camera I'd planted in our house after the first whispers of doubt crept in. My heart pounds in my chest as I head back inside, my footsteps heavy and determined. The party is still going strong, oblivious to the storm brewing within me. I spot Rebecca still laughing with a group of people, and Richard nearby, his eyes narrowing when he sees me return. He knows something is off. He's too slick, too perceptive, not to notice the change in me, but he doesn't know what's coming. I move quickly, slipping through the crowd until I reach the projector, set up in the corner for some presentation earlier in the night. I plug in the camera, my fingers trembling as I navigate through the footage. I don't care who sees this. I need them to know what these two have done. The first video plays, the grainy black and white footage showing Richard entering our house when I was supposed to be at work. I hear the murmurs in the room start to swell, but I don't look up. My eyes are glued to the screen as I fast forward to the part that makes my stomach twist. The part where Rebecca meets him in our living room, dressed in nothing but a robe. I press play and the sound of their voices fills the room, every whispered word a knife to my chest. The room goes silent, the music cut off by the horror playing out on the screen. Rebecca's laughter stops, and I can feel her eyes on me, but I don't turn around. I let the footage run, showing everything. How she led him upstairs, how they spent hours in our bed, the bed I shared with her for 5 years. The gasps from our coworkers grow louder, some turning away, others staring in shock. Finally, I turn to face the room. Rebecca stands frozen, her face pale as she stares at the screen, her hands shaking. Richard tries to step forward, but I hold up a hand, stopping him in his tracks. This, I say, my voice low but cutting through the silence, is what's been happening behind my back. Rebecca's eyes are wide, her lips moving as if she's trying to find words, but none come out. Richard, always the smooth talker, starts to speak, but I cut him off. Don't even try to explain, I hiss, stepping toward him, my fists clenched. You think you can manipulate me? You think you can take what's mine and get away with it? The fury in my voice makes Richard hesitate, but only for a moment. He straightens up, that smug confidence returning as he looks around the room, searching for support. This is all a misunderstanding, he begins, his voice calm, too calm. You're blowing this out of proportion. Rebecca and I, it's complicated. Complicated, I shout, my voice cracking. This is betrayal, plain and simple. You tried to ruin my life and you think you can talk your way out of this? Rebecca finally speaks, her voice barely above a whisper. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I whip around to face her, my eyes burning with unshed tears. Then how was it supposed to be, Rebecca? You were going to run off with him? Leave me with nothing? Or did you think I'd just accept it? Let you walk all over me? She shakes her head, tears streaming down her face now. But I can't find any sympathy in me. Not after what she's done. Not after the lies, the deceit, the coldness I felt every time she touched me these past few weeks. I turn back to Richard. You think you're untouchable, don't you? You think because you're my boss, you can control me. Well, I'm done playing by your rules. With that, I pull out my phone and dial 911, my voice steady as I tell the operator that there's been a crime. Trespassing, assault, whatever it takes to get the police here. I see the panic flash across Richard's face, and for the first time tonight, I feel a small, bitter satisfaction. Richard tries to argue, to reason with me, but I'm done listening. The police arrive quickly, and the room is a flurry of activity. Richard is handcuffed, his rights read to him as the officers take in the scene. The shocked faces, the silent tears on Rebecca's cheeks, the still playing footage on the projector. Rebecca tries to approach me, to explain, but I hold up a hand, stopping her just as I did Richard. I don't want to hear it, I say, my voice hard. There's nothing you can say to make this right. As they lead Richard away, I finally let myself breathe. The humiliation in his eyes is nothing compared to the betrayal I feel, but it's a start. It's something to hold on to as I watch the man who thought he could destroy me taken down, step by step. Rebecca is still standing there, looking lost, broken. I should feel something for her, pity, anger, maybe even the love I once had. But all I feel is emptiness. I walk past her without a word, leaving her to deal with the fallout of her choices. I have no more words for her, no more patience, no more anything. Outside, the night air is even colder, but it's a relief to be out of that suffocating room. My hands are still shaking, the adrenaline wearing off, leaving me drained and hollow. I walk to my car, the sound of the party still faintly echoing behind me. It feels like a different world now, one I'm no longer a part of. I sit in the driver's seat for a long time, staring at the steering wheel, trying to process what just happened. The anger is still there, simmering beneath the surface. But there's something else too. Grief. Grief for the life I thought I had, the woman I thought I knew, the future that's now shattered beyond repair. Eventually, I start the car and drive home. The road's empty and dark. The house is silent when I walk in, the kind of silence that presses down on you, that makes you feel small and alone. I don't bother turning on the lights as I walk through the rooms, each one filled with memories that now feel tainted, wrong. Our bedroom is the hardest. I stand in the doorway, staring at the bed where they were together, and the reality of it all hits me like a punch to the gut. I can't stay here. Not tonight. Maybe not ever again. I grab a bag from the closet and start throwing clothes into it, not caring what I take. I just need to get out, to put distance between me and this place, between me and her. The anger is back now, fueling my movements, making my hands move faster as I pack up my life into a small, sad suitcase. As I'm about to leave, I see the framed photo on the nightstand, the two of us on our wedding day smiling, so damn happy. I pick it up, my fingers tracing the edges of the frame, and for a moment, I think about smashing it, throwing it against the wall to release some of the rage boiling inside me. But I don't. Instead, I set it back down, face down, so I don't have to see those smiles anymore. I leave the house without looking back, my bag slung over my shoulder, my mind a mess of thoughts I can't untangle. I don't know where I'm going, but I know I can't stay here. Not with everything that's happened. Driving aimlessly through the city, I try to make sense of it all, but nothing fits. Every time I think about Rebecca, about Richard, about what they did, the rage flares up again, blinding and all-consuming. I want to hurt them the way they've hurt me, to make them feel every ounce of the pain they've caused. I end up at a motel, the kind of place where no one asks questions, where the walls are thin and the bed is stiff. It's not much, but it's enough for tonight. I check in, the clerk giving me a tired, uninterested look as I hand over my credit card. The room is small, cramped, but at least it's clean. I drop my bag on the floor and collapse onto the bed, the weight of everything pressing down on me. The silence here is different, less oppressive, but still heavy. I lie there staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying the events of the night over and over until I can't take it anymore. I sit up, grabbing my phone from the nightstand, and start searching for a private investigator. I need to know more. I need to understand why this happened, how long it's been going on, and what else they've been hiding from me. It doesn't take long to find someone. A man with good reviews, discreet, and willing to start immediately. I call him, my voice low and steady as I explain what I need, what I want him to find out. He agrees to meet me in the morning, and I feel a small sense of control returning. I'm not just sitting back and letting this happen, I'm doing something. But as I hang up the phone, the reality of what I've done tonight starts to sink in. I've exposed my wife's affair to everyone we know, called the police on my boss, and walked away from the life I've built. There's no going back now. No undoing the damage. The adrenaline is wearing off, leaving me exhausted and raw. I strip down and step into the shower, the water scalding hot, but I welcome the pain. It's something to focus on, something to ground me in this new, harsh reality. The steam fills the small bathroom, and I let it wash over me, trying to scrub away the filth, the betrayal, but it's not enough. It's never going to be enough. When I finally climb into bed, sleep doesn't come easily. My mind is too full, too restless. I keep seeing their faces, hearing their voices, feeling that crushing weight of betrayal all over again. It's a long time before exhaustion finally pulls me under, and even then, my dreams are dark, twisted, filled with images of Rebecca and Richard, of what they did, of what they took from me. Morning comes too soon, the light creeping in through the thin curtains, dragging me back to consciousness. I lie there for a moment, disoriented, before the events of last night come rushing back. The weight in my chest returns, heavier than before, but there's also a cold determination now. I'm going to find out everything. I'm going to make them pay for what they've done. I dress quickly, my movements mechanical, and head out to meet the investigator. The city is just waking up. The street's still quiet, but I barely notice. My mind is already on the next steps, the next moves in this game of revenge and retribution. This isn't over, not by a long shot. The investigator I hired is named Carl. He's a short, stocky man in his 50s with a perpetual frown and a no-nonsense attitude. We meet in a dingy diner on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where no one asks questions and the coffee tastes like burnt rubber. Carl wastes no time, getting straight to business as I hand over the details I have. I need everything, I tell him, my voice steady, despite the turmoil churning inside me. Every text, every call, every place they went together. I want to know how long this has been going on and why. Carl nods, his eyes narrowing as he studies me. You sure you're ready for what you might find? He asks, not out of concern, but as a simple professional question. I don't have a choice, I reply, and I don't. I need answers. I need to understand how my life unraveled so quickly, so completely. He grunts in acknowledgement, then pushes a small notebook across the table. I'll start with the basics. I'll need access to her phone records, social media, and any other digital footprints she's left. This won't be cheap. Money's not an issue, I say, pushing a thick envelope filled with cash toward him. He takes it without a word, sliding it into his coat pocket. The meeting ends as abruptly as it began, Carl standing and giving me a curt nod before heading out. I sit there for a few minutes, staring at my untouched coffee, trying to process what I've just set in motion. There's no going back now. I'm in too deep, and the only way out is through. Days pass, each one a torturous stretch of silence and waiting. I've taken leave from work, citing personal reasons, but the truth is I can't face the office. I can't face the whispers, the knowing looks from those who were at the party. I can't face the empty house either, so I stay in the motel, pacing the small room like a caged animal, my thoughts spiraling. Rebecca calls, texts, even shows up at the motel once, but I don't answer the door. I watch her through the peephole, my heart a conflicted mess of love, anger, and confusion. She looks tired, her makeup smudged, her hair a mess, but I can't bring myself to care. She brought this on herself. After what feels like an eternity, Carl finally calls with an update. I meet him at the same diner, my nerves frayed, my patience worn thin. He slides a folder across the table, his expression grim. It's worse than you thought, he says, his voice low. I open the folder with trembling hands, the contents a damning collection of emails, photos, and documents. Each page feels like a knife to the gut, the betrayal deeper, more insidious than I ever imagined. The affair has been going on for months, maybe even longer, and it's not just about sex. There are hotel receipts, flight bookings, and even a lease agreement for an apartment they share. They've been careful, Carl continues, but not careful enough. Richard's got connections, though. He's been covering his tracks, making sure nothing points back to him directly. I flip through the photos, each one a blow to whatever fragile hope I had left. Rebecca in his arms, smiling in ways she hasn't smiled at me in years. The two of them in restaurants, hotels, even on a yacht, looking every bit the happy couple. But it's not just the affair that guts me. It's the way they've talked about me, the contempt, the mockery. In their emails, I'm nothing more than an obstacle, a fool to be manipulated. Rebecca's words in particular are cruel, cutting, and I can't reconcile them with the woman I thought I knew. I slam the folder shut, unable to look at it anymore. How could she do this? I mutter, more to myself than to Carl. People do crazy things for love, Carl says, though his tone suggests he doesn't believe that's what this is. Or for money or power. Whatever it is, it's clear she's in deep with him. But there's more. I look up at him, my stomach churning. What do you mean? Carl leans in closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Richard's not just some sleazy boss with a thing for married women. He's got a history. I dug into his past and let's just say he's done this before. A lot. And not just with your wife. He's got a pattern, finds vulnerable women, gets them involved, then discards them when they're no longer useful. But sometimes things go further. There have been a few accidents in his past, women who've gotten too close to the truth or tried to expose him. The words hang heavy in the air, the implications clear. Rebecca might be more than just a willing participant. she could be in real danger. But even as the thought crosses my mind, I feel a wave of bitterness. Does she deserve my concern after everything she's done? I don't know what game he's playing, Carl continues, but it's dangerous. And if you push too hard, he won't hesitate to make you disappear too. I nod slowly, the weight of his words settling on my shoulders. What do I do? Carl sits back, his gaze steady. You have two options. You can take this to the police, let them handle it, though with his connections, there's no guarantee he'll go down easily. Or you can keep digging, find something solid that ties him to those other incidents, something that will stick no matter how hard he tries to wriggle out of it. But either way, you need to be careful. I leave the diner feeling more conflicted than ever. The drive back to the motel is a blur, my mind racing with possibilities, each one darker than the last. I've never been a violent man, but the thought of confronting Richard, of making him pay for what he's done, burns in the back of my mind. I want him to suffer, to feel the pain he's inflicted on me, on Rebecca. But then there's Rebecca. As much as I hate what she's done, the idea of her being another one of Richard's victims twists something inside me. I can't just abandon her, can't let her fall into whatever trap he set. I spend the next few days in a haze, alternating between anger, despair, and a cold, calculating focus. I keep replaying Carl's words in my head, trying to make sense of it all, to figure out my next move. Meanwhile, the media has gotten wind of the scandal. Photos from the party surface online, headlines speculating about the affair, the fallout at work. My name is dragged through the mud, my reputation shredded. But I don't care about that anymore. All I care about is taking Richard down. A few days later, the threat comes. It's not subtle, not some shadowy figure slipping an envelope under my door. It's a phone call clear as day from a number I don't recognize. Drop the charges, the voice says, low and menacing, or you won't make it to the trial. Neither will she. The line goes dead before I can respond, but the message is clear. Richard knows I'm coming for him, and he's not going to let me ruin him without a fight. I sit there, the phone still in my hand, a cold sweat breaking out across my skin. I'm in over my head, and I know it, but I also know I can't back down. Not now. Not after everything. I call Carl, filling him in on the threat. He's not surprised. He's desperate, Carl says, which means you're close, but you need to be careful. Watch your back. Keep your head down. And if you've got anything that could blow this wide open, now's the time to use it. I spend the next few hours going through everything Carl's given me, looking for the smoking gun, the piece of evidence that will finally bring Richard down. But it's all circumstantial. Nothing that will hold up in court. I feel the frustration building, the helplessness creeping in. But then I remember something Carl mentioned, those accidents in Richard's past. I dive into the research, pulling up old news articles, police reports, anything I can find. It's tedious work, the hours slipping by as I sift through endless pages of information. But then I find it, a case from a few years ago, a woman who was found dead in her apartment. The death was ruled a suicide, but the details are eerily similar to what Carl described. She was involved with Richard, and there were whispers that she was going to expose him for something. But the case was closed, the truth buried. I print out everything, spreading it across the motel bed, trying to piece together the connections. It's thin, but it's there. A pattern of women who got too close, who knew too much, and who ended up dead or disappeared. And all of them had ties to Richard. I call Carl, excitement buzzing in my veins. I found it, I say, breathless. There's a pattern. Women connected to Richard, all dead or missing. It's not enough for a conviction, but it's something. Carl's quiet for a moment, then he speaks, his voice cautious. It's a start, but you need more. Something concrete. If you go to the police with this now, he'll have time to cover his tracks. You need to find the link that ties him directly to these deaths. I know he's right, but the thought of waiting, of digging deeper, terrifies me. I don't know how much more I can take. But I have no choice. I'm too deep in this now, too committed. I need to see it through no matter what it costs me. The next few days are a blur of phone calls, emails, and sleepless nights. I push Carl to dig deeper, to find the connection we need. I follow every lead, every thread, hoping it will unravel the web Richard has spun. Meanwhile, the pressure mounts. The media is relentless. My job hangs by a thread, and Rebecca, she's a ghost, haunting my thoughts, my dreams. Then Carl calls me late one night, his voice tense. I found something, he says. It's not much, but it's enough to make him sweat. He explains that he's uncovered a financial trail, payments made to a private investigator years ago, shortly before one of the women disappeared. It's not a smoking gun, but it's a start, something that could tie Richard to the crime if we dig deeper. I feel a surge of hope, but it's quickly tempered by fear. Richard is dangerous, and we're playing a deadly game. But I can't back down now, not after everything. I need to see this through, no matter the cost. I thank Carl, telling him to keep digging, to keep the pressure on. I hang up, my mind racing, my heart pounding. I'm close, so close. But the closer I get, the more dangerous it becomes. As I lie in the dark, staring at the ceiling, I feel the weight of it all pressing down on me. The anger, the betrayal, the fear. But underneath it all, there's something else, a cold, hard determination. I'm going to bring Richard down. I'm going to make him pay for everything he's done. Even if it's the last thing I do. The courtroom is colder than I expected. The chill seeps into my bones as I sit at the plaintiff's table, waiting for the proceedings to begin. I can feel the weight of every eye on me, the anticipation thick in the air. The gallery is packed, co-workers, reporters, curious onlookers, all here to witness the downfall of Richard. But all I can focus on is the door, waiting for Rebecca to walk in. My heart pounds in my chest, a steady, relentless beat that drowns out the low murmur of voices around me. This is it. The culmination of everything I've been through, the anger, the betrayal, the sleepless nights, all leading to this moment. I clench my fists under the table, trying to steady myself, but the rage is still there, simmering just beneath the surface. The door opens and I tense, but it's not Rebecca. It's Richard, flanked by his lawyers, his face a mask of calm indifference. He walks with the confidence of a man who believes he's untouchable, his eyes sweeping over the room as if he owns it. When his gaze lands on me, there's a flicker of something, recognition, maybe even fear, but it's gone as quickly as it appears. He takes his seat, his lawyers immediately huddling around him, whispering strategies and reassurances. I watch him, every fiber of my being screaming for justice. This man has taken everything from me, my wife, my peace of mind, my future, and now I'm going to take everything from him. The judge enters, and the room falls silent. We all rise, then sit as he takes his place. The trial begins with the usual formalities, introductions, opening statements, but I barely register them. My mind is focused on what's to come, on what I'll say when I take the stand, on how I'll expose Richard for the monster he truly is. Finally, it's my turn. The bailiff calls my name, and I rise, my legs shaky but my resolve firm. As I walk to the stand, I catch a glimpse of Rebecca in the gallery, her eyes red-rimmed and tired. She looks like a shadow of the woman I once knew, her face drawn and pale. For a moment I falter, my anger wavering. But then I remember the emails, the photos, the lies. I remember the nights I spent alone, wondering where she was, what she was doing. I remember Richard's smirk, his arrogance, and my resolve hardens. I take the oath, promising to tell the truth, and then the questioning begins. The prosecutor is good, methodical. He leads me through the events, each question drawing out the pain, the betrayal. I tell the story as clearly as I can, my voice steady, though my heart is pounding in my chest. I describe the party, the confrontation, the hidden camera, and the moment everything fell apart. I lay it all out, not sparing any details, even as I feel the weight of it crushing down on me. When it's the defense's turn, Richard's lawyer is ruthless. He attacks every weakness, every inconsistency, trying to paint me as a jealous, vindictive husband. He brings up the hidden camera, questioning my motives, insinuating that I set Richard up. He talks about the money, the power dynamics, trying to twist the narrative into something ugly and desperate. Isn't it true, the lawyer asks, his voice smooth and confident, that you planted that camera because you were already suspicious? That you were looking for any excuse to bring your boss down? No, I say, my voice firm. I planted it because I knew something was wrong, because my wife was acting strange, and I needed to know the truth. The lawyer pounces on that, his eyes gleaming. So you admit you were paranoid? That you couldn't trust your wife? I grit my teeth, trying to stay calm. I trusted her for 5 years, but things changed. She changed, and I had a right to know why. The lawyer doesn't let up. He presses harder, twisting my words, trying to make me seem irrational, unstable. But I hold my ground, refusing to let him get the better of me. I won't let Richard win. Finally, the lawyer steps back, satisfied with his attack, and I'm allowed to leave the stand. I return to my seat, feeling drained, but still determined. The battle is far from over. The next day, it's Rebecca's turn to testify. I watch her closely as she walks to the stand, her steps slow and hesitant. She looks at me briefly, and there's something in her eyes, regret, maybe even sorrow, but it's too late for that. I can't afford to feel anything for her now. Her testimony is heartbreaking. She talks about how Richard manipulated her, how he preyed on her insecurities, her loneliness. She admits to the affair but claims it wasn't what it seemed. According to her, Richard used her, threatened her, made her feel like she had no choice. She says she was afraid, trapped in a situation she didn't know how to escape. As I listen, part of me wants to believe her. I want to believe that she was a victim, that she didn't really mean to hurt me. But then I remember the emails, the way she laughed with him, the way she looked at him. And the anger flares up again, burning away any sympathy I might have felt. The defense tries to tear her down too, questioning her motives, her honesty. They bring up her past, her flaws, trying to paint her as an unreliable witness. But Rebecca holds her ground, her voice steady, her answers clear. She's fighting just like I am, and I can't help but feel a twisted sense of pride. Even now, even after everything, she's still strong. When she's done, she walks back to her seat, her eyes downcast. I want to reach out to her, to say something, anything, but I can't. There's too much between us now, too much pain, too many lies. The trial drags on, each day more exhausting than the last. Witness after witness takes the stand, each one adding to the tension, the drama. The prosecution presents its case, laying out the evidence against Richard, his history, his pattern of manipulation, the trail of ruined lives he's left behind. But the defense fights back hard, countering every point, trying to poke holes in the case, to cast doubt wherever they can. Then in a shocking twist, new evidence comes to light, evidence that could change everything. A former employee of Richard's, someone who was too scared to come forward before, finally breaks her silence. She testifies that Richard coerced her too, that he used threats and blackmail to keep her quiet. She reveals that Richard had her under constant surveillance, that he knew her every move, and that he even had a file on Rebecca, detailing everything he knew about her, everything he could use against her. The courtroom erupts in chaos. The defense scrambles to discredit the witness, to argue that she's lying, that she's just trying to get revenge. But the damage is done. The jury can see it. The fear in her eyes, the desperation in her voice. They can see the truth. As the trial nears its end, I feel a sense of impending doom. The stakes have never been higher, and I know that whatever happens next will change my life forever. Richard's defense team is ruthless, and they're not going down without a fight. They bring out every trick in the book, trying to paint me as a liar, as a man obsessed with revenge. In a particularly brutal cross-examination, They dredge up my past, my insecurities, my failures. They try to break me, to make me doubt myself, to make the jury doubt me. But I hold on. I cling to the truth, to the knowledge that I'm doing the right thing, that I'm fighting for justice. Finally, the day comes for closing arguments. The prosecutor is brilliant, weaving together the evidence, the testimonies, the emotions into a compelling narrative. He paints Richard as a predator, a man who preyed on the vulnerable, who used his power to exploit and destroy. He asks the jury to see through the lies, to see Richard for who he truly is. Richard's lawyer, in contrast, tries to turn the tables, portraying Richard as a successful, misunderstood businessman, a victim of a vendetta. He tries to convince the jury that I'm the real villain, that this is all about jealousy, about a husband who couldn't accept his wife's independence. He's smooth, persuasive, but I can see the cracks in his argument, and I hope the jury can too. The jury deliberates for hours, the tension in the courtroom unbearable. I sit there, my hands clenched, my heart racing, every minute feeling like an eternity. Rebecca is beside me, her face pale, her eyes fixed on the floor. We don't speak, but I can feel her anxiety, her fear mirroring my own. Finally, the jury returns, and my heart skips a beat as the foreman stands to deliver the verdict. The room falls silent, every eye on him, every breath held. We find the defendant, Richard Hale, guilty on all counts. The words hit me like a tidal wave, washing over me, drowning me in relief, in disbelief. It's over. It's finally over. But as I sit there, the weight of the verdict sinking in, I realize that this isn't the end. Not for me, not for Rebecca. Richard may be going to prison, but the scars he's left behind will take much longer to heal. Rebecca turns to me, her eyes filled with tears, and for the first time in what feels like forever, I see the woman I fell in love with. But it's too late. The damage is done. There's no going back now. We're both broken, in ways that can never be fixed. As the judge delivers the sentence, I stand, ready to leave this chapter of my life behind. But before I go, I glance back at Richard, now in handcuffs, his face a mask of fury and disbelief. He thought he was invincible, but now he's just another man brought down by his own hubris. I walk out of the courtroom, the sunlight blinding after the darkness of the trial. The air is cool, crisp, and for the first time in months, I feel like I can breathe again. But as I step into the light, I know that the fight isn't over. Richard's conviction may bring some closure, but it won't heal the wounds he's inflicted. It won't erase the betrayal, the lies, the pain. And it won't change the fact that my life will never be the same. I'm free, but I'm also lost. And as I walk away from the courthouse, Rebecca trailing behind me, I wonder what comes next. I've won the battle, but the war inside me is far from over. The trial is over, and Richard is behind bars, but I feel no sense of victory. The thrill of revenge has worn off, leaving behind a hollow emptiness that gnaws at me. I've won, but at what cost? My life is in shambles, and no prison sentence will change that. I spend the first few days after the trial in a daze, going through the motions without really feeling anything. The house feels like a tomb, filled with memories I can't escape. Every room, every piece of furniture, every picture on the wall is a reminder of the life Rebecca and I built together. A life that now feels like a lie. Rebecca tries to talk to me, to apologize, to explain, but I shut her out. Her words fall on deaf ears, my heart hardened by the betrayal. I can't look at her without seeing the lies, the deceit, the way she let Richard into our lives, into our bed. Her tears don't move me, and her pleas for forgiveness only deepen the chasm between us. But she doesn't give up. One night she corners me in the kitchen, her eyes red from crying, her voice trembling with desperation. "Please, just listen to me," she begs, her hands trembling as she reaches out to touch me. "I made a terrible mistake, but I never stopped loving you." I pull away, her touch burning like a brand. "You stopped loving me the moment you let him into our house," I say coldly, my voice devoid of emotion. "There's nothing left to talk about, Rebecca. You made your choice. and now you have to live with it. She flinches as if I've slapped her, but I feel no satisfaction in her pain. I'm too numb, too broken to care. I leave her standing there, her sobs echoing through the house as I walk away, my heart as cold as stone. The next day, I make the decision to sell the house. I can't stay here, surrounded by ghosts of a past that no longer exists. I contact a real estate agent, and within a week, the house is on the market. I pack up my belongings, the process, mechanical, detached. I don't even bother going through everything, just tossing it all into boxes, erasing the life we shared as quickly as I can. Rebecca watches in silence, her eyes filled with sorrow, but I don't acknowledge her. I can't. Every time I look at her, I'm reminded of what she did, and the anger flares up again, sharp and consuming. I don't want to be angry anymore. I just want to be free. When the house finally sells, I don't feel relief, only a sense of finality. The closing process is quick, and soon the house that was once our home belongs to someone else. I don't look back as I leave for the last time, the weight of the past finally lifting, if only a little. With the sale finalized, I move into a small apartment downtown. It's nothing like the house, cramped, noisy, impersonal, but it's what I need. A fresh start, free from the memories that haunted me in that house. I throw myself into work, taking on new projects, burying myself in the daily grind. It's easier to focus on numbers, deadlines, and meetings than to face the void left by the end of my marriage. Rebecca tries to reach out to me, sending texts, leaving voicemails, even showing up at my office once, but I ignore her. I can't deal with her right now, not when I'm barely holding myself together. She's a part of the past I'm trying to leave behind, a chapter I'm determined to close for good. But no matter how hard I try, the pain lingers, gnawing at me in the quiet moments when I'm alone with my thoughts. I think about everything I've lost, my marriage, my home, my sense of security, and it's hard not to feel the sting of failure. I wanted revenge, and I got it, but it came at a cost I wasn't prepared to pay. One night, after a long day at work, I come home to my empty apartment, the silence pressing in on me. I pour myself a drink, the whiskey burning as it goes down, but it does little to dull the ache inside me. I stare out the window at the city lights, wondering how I ended up here, alone and adrift, with nothing but the ashes of my old life to keep me company. I think about Rebecca, about the woman she was when we first met, so full of life and love. I remember our wedding day, the way she looked at me as if I were the only man in the world, the vows we made, the promises we swore to keep. How did we go from that to this? How did everything fall apart so completely? The memories are too much, the pain too raw, and I find myself picking up my phone, dialing her number before I can stop myself. She answers on the second ring, her voice hesitant, hopeful. Hello? For a moment I can't speak, the words lodged in my throat. I take a deep breath, forcing myself to say what I've been avoiding for weeks. Rebecca, we need to talk. She's silent for a long moment, and I can hear the uncertainty in her voice when she finally speaks. Okay, when? Tomorrow, I say, my voice flat, emotionless. I'll come by your place after work. All right, she agrees, her voice barely above a whisper. I'll be here. I hang up without saying goodbye, the conversation leaving me feeling drained, hollow. I know what I need to do, but that doesn't make it any easier. The next day drags by, the hours ticking by at a snail's pace as I go through the motions, my mind elsewhere. By the time I leave the office, my nerves are frayed, my stomach in knots. When I arrive at Rebecca's apartment, I hesitate for a moment before knocking on the door. She opens it almost immediately, as if she's been waiting for me, and for a moment we just stand there, staring at each other. She looks like she hasn't slept in days, her eyes red and puffy, her face pale. But there's a glimmer of hope in her eyes, and it makes my heart ache. Come in, she says, stepping aside to let me in. The apartment is small, cozy, and I can tell she's tried to make it feel like a home, but it's missing something. It feels empty, just like my place. We sit down on the couch, an awkward silence stretching between us. I don't know where to start, how to begin the conversation that will end everything. Finally, I take a deep breath and force myself to speak. I've been thinking a lot, I begin, my voice tight, about everything that's happened, about us. She nods, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, waiting for me to continue. When I found out about you and Richard, it shattered me, I say, my voice raw with emotion. I felt betrayed, humiliated, like everything we had was a lie. And I wanted to hurt you, to make you feel the pain I was feeling. Her eyes fill with tears, but she doesn't look away, doesn't try to defend herself. But now, after everything, I realize that revenge didn't fix anything. It didn't heal the wounds or make the pain go away. It just made everything worse. I pause, struggling to find the right words. I'm not saying I forgive you, because I don't know if I ever can, but I also can't keep holding on to this anger, this bitterness. It's killing me, and it's not helping either of us. Rebecca's tears spill over, and she wipes them away with the back of her hand. I'm so sorry, she whispers, her voice thick with emotion. I know I hurt you in ways I can never take back. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know that I never stopped loving you. I was lost, confused, and I made terrible choices, but I never stopped loving you. Her words pierce through me, the sincerity in her voice breaking down the walls I've built around my heart. But it's too late for love. Too much has happened. Too much has been broken. I believe you, I say quietly, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. But love isn't enough to fix what's broken. We've both changed, and I don't think we can go back to the way things were. She nods, a single tear sliding down her cheek. I know, she whispers, but I wish we could. I reach out, taking her hand in mine, the touch bittersweet. Me too. But I think it's time we both move on, try to find some peace, some happiness, apart from each other. She squeezes my hand, her eyes filled with sadness, but also acceptance. You're right. It's time. We sit there for a moment, holding hands, saying our goodbyes without words. There's nothing left to say, nothing that can change the reality of what's happened. Finally, I stand, letting go of her hand. Take care of yourself, Rebecca. She nods, her voice breaking as she says, You too. I leave her apartment feeling a strange mix of relief and sorrow. The weight of anger and betrayal has lifted, but it's been replaced by a deep, aching sadness. The woman I loved is gone, lost to the choices we both made, and now all that's left is to pick up the pieces and move forward. I throw myself into my work, trying to rebuild my life, to find some semblance of normalcy. But the emptiness remains, a constant reminder of everything I've lost. I go through the motions, but the joy, the passion is gone. Months pass, and slowly I start to heal. The pain lessens, the memories fade, and I begin to find solace in the small things. Quiet walks, a good book, a glass of wine at the end of a long day. I'm learning to live with the scars, to accept the past for what it is. But the void remains, a lingering emptiness that I can't seem to fill. Revenge brought me no peace, and now all I have is the lingering question of what comes next. One evening, as I sit in my apartment, the city lights twinkling outside my window, I find myself thinking about the future, about what I want, about who I want to be. The man I was before is gone, replaced by someone harder, more jaded. But there's a part of me that still believes in hope, in the possibility of redemption. Maybe one day I'll find love again. Maybe I'll build a new life, one free from the shadows of the past. But for now, I'm content to take it one day at a time, to keep moving forward, to keep searching for that elusive peace. As I finish my drink and head to bed, I feel a small sense of closure. The story of my revenge is over, but a new chapter is just beginning. And whatever comes next, I'm ready to face it. Rebecca invites me over one last time, and I know this is it, our final confrontation, the moment where we lay everything bare. I arrive at her apartment, my stomach churning with a mix of dread and resignation. I don't know what I'm hoping for, or even if I'm hoping for anything at all. She opens the door, and I'm struck by how different she looks. There's a fragility to her now, a weight that wasn't there before. It's not just the toll of the trial or the months of living in limbo. It's the burden of guilt, of choices made, and paths taken that can never be undone. "Come in," she says softly, stepping aside to let me pass. I enter, feeling the tension in the air, heavy and suffocating. We don't exchange pleasantries. There's no need. We both know why we're here. We sit down in the living room, facing each other like strangers meeting for the first time. She fidgets with her hands, and I can see the nervousness in her eyes, the fear of what's to come. But I don't offer her any comfort. I'm here for answers, not to ease her conscience. "Why?" I finally ask, my voice low, controlled. It's a simple question, but it carries the weight of everything we've been through. Rebecca takes a deep breath, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I was lost," she begins, her voice trembling. "I felt like I was drowning, like I was invisible in our marriage. Richard, he made me feel seen, wanted. I know it sounds like a cliche, but it's the truth." I listen, my emotions a swirling storm of anger, sadness, and something else. Something that feels dangerously close to pity. "So you slept with him because I didn't pay enough attention to you?" I ask, unable to keep the bitterness out of my voice. She flinches at the harshness of my words but doesn't look away. "No," she says, shaking her head. "It wasn't just about that. It was about control, about power. Richard, he manipulated me, made me believe that he was the only one who could give me what I needed. But it was a lie. All of it was a lie." Her confession hangs in the air, raw and vulnerable. I want to lash out, to make her feel the pain she caused me, but I can't. I'm too tired, too drained by everything that's happened. "Why didn't you tell me?" I ask, my voice softer now, laced with the sadness I've been carrying for so long. "Why didn't you come to me instead of turning to him?" Tears spill down her cheeks, and she wipes them away, her hands trembling. "I was ashamed," she whispers. "I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I couldn't stop. I thought I could handle it, that I could keep it separate from us, but it all spiraled out of control. By the time I realized how deep I was in, it was too late. I was too scared to tell you the truth." I close my eyes, letting her words sink in. The truth. It's what I've been searching for, what I've needed to hear. But now that it's out, it doesn't bring me the closure I hoped for. Instead, it leaves me feeling hollow, like something inside me has been irreparably broken. "I can't forgive you, Rebecca," I say, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. "I've tried, but I can't. What you did, what you allowed to happen, it destroyed us." "It destroyed me." She nods, her expression crumpling into one of deep regret. "I know," she says, her voice barely a whisper, "and I'll live with that guilt for the rest of my life. But I want you to know that I never stopped loving you, even when I was at my worst." The words are sincere, but they don't change anything. I look at her, the woman I once loved, and realize that whatever we had is gone, lost to the choices we both made. There's nothing left but the ashes of our past, and I have to accept that. "I don't love you anymore," I say, the words cutting through the air like a knife. It's the truth, and it hurts to say it, but it's necessary. I don't know if I ever will again. Maybe someday I'll be able to look back and remember the good times, but right now, all I feel is emptiness. Rebecca looks down, tears dripping onto her hands, but she doesn't argue or beg for another chance. She knows, just as I do, that it's over. Whatever love we had has been consumed by the flames of betrayal, and there's no bringing it back. We sit in silence for a long moment, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on us. Finally, Rebecca looks up at me, her eyes red and swollen. "I'm sorry," she says, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry for everything." I nod, acknowledging her apology, but I don't say anything in return. There's nothing left to say. The past can't be undone, and the future is uncertain. I stand, the finality of the moment settling over me like a shroud. Take care of yourself, I say, my voice distant, detached. You too, she replies, her voice small, defeated. I walk to the door, my steps heavy, my heart even heavier. As I reach for the handle, I pause, glancing back at her one last time. There's a part of me that wants to say something comforting, something to ease the pain we're both feeling, but I can't find the words. Instead, I open the door and step out into the hallway, leaving her behind, leaving everything behind. As I walk away, I feel a strange mix of emotions, relief, sadness, and a sense of finality. It's over. The chapter that began with betrayal and ended in heartbreak is finally closed. But as I step outside, the cool air hitting my face, I realize that this isn't the end. It's the beginning of something new, something unknown. I've been so focused on revenge, on retribution, that I haven't thought about what comes next. What does life look like after everything has been stripped away? I don't have the answers, but for the first time in a long time, I'm okay with that. The future is a blank slate, and while it's terrifying, it's also filled with possibility. I've been through hell, but I survived. I'm stronger, wiser, and ready to start again. I walk away from Rebecca's apartment, the city bustling around me, the noise and chaos a comforting reminder that life goes on. I don't know where I'm going, but I know that I'm moving forward, leaving the past where it belongs. As I make my way through the crowded streets, I think about the man I've become, the man who fought for justice, who faced his demons and came out the other side. I'm not the same person I was before, and I'll never be that person again. But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe this is a chance to rebuild, to create a life that's truly my own. I pause at a street corner, looking up at the sky, the clouds parting to reveal a sliver of blue. It's a small thing, but it feels like a sign that there's hope, that there's light at the end of this dark tunnel. I take a deep breath, letting the fresh air fill my lungs, and for the first time in months, I feel a sense of peace. The wounds are still there, the scars still fresh, but they're a part of me now, a reminder of what I've been through and how far I've come. As I cross the street, I think about the future, about the places I'll go, the people I'll meet, the life I'll build. It won't be easy, and I know there will be days when the past comes back to haunt me, but I'm ready to face it, ready to keep moving forward. Rebecca is behind me now, a part of my story that's over. The love we shared, the pain we caused each other, it's all in the past. And as I walk into the future, I carry with me the lessons I've learned, the strength I've gained. The story of my revenge is over, but the story of my life is just beginning. And whatever comes next, I know I'm ready for it. I sit in my apartment, the soft hum of city life filtering through the window. It's late, and the world outside is moving on, but I'm here, stuck in my own head, trying to make sense of everything that's happened. The journey that brought me here has been brutal, a gauntlet of betrayal, anger, and revenge. But now with Richard in prison and Rebecca out of my life, I'm left with a strange sense of emptiness. The battle is over, but the wounds are still fresh, and I wonder if they'll ever truly heal. I think back to the night of the party, the moment everything changed. It feels like a lifetime ago, like something that happened to someone else. The man I was back then, naive, trusting, blind to the lies swirling around him, doesn't exist anymore. I've been stripped down, rebuilt, hardened by the choices I've made. But as I sit here, alone in the quiet of my apartment, I wonder if I've really come out on the other side, or if I'm still lost in the wreckage. The truth is, I'm not sure who I am anymore. The revenge that drove me, that consumed me for so long, has left me feeling hollow. I thought it would bring me closure, but it didn't. It just opened up new wounds, new questions, and now I'm left grappling with the aftermath. I keep telling myself that I did the right thing, that Richard deserved everything he got, that Rebecca's betrayal needed to be exposed. But the more I think about it, the less certain I am. I've spent so much time focused on the past, on what was taken from me, that I haven't allowed myself to think about the future. What do I want? Where do I go from here? The questions swirl around in my mind, relentless and unforgiving. I've been so consumed by anger, by the need to make them pay, that I've lost sight of everything else. But now with the dust settling, I'm forced to confront the reality that I've been avoiding. I stand up, pacing the small space of my apartment, trying to shake off the heaviness that settled over me. I've always been a man of action, someone who tackles problems head on. But this is different. There's no clear path forward, no enemy to fight, no wrong to right. There's just me and the life I have to rebuild from the ground up. The thought of starting over is daunting, but there's also a strange sense of freedom in it. I'm no longer tied to the past, to the man I was, to the life that was built on lies. I can be whoever I want to be, go wherever I want to go. The possibilities are endless, but they're also terrifying. I've been drifting, letting the tide of events carry me along, but now it's time to take control. I walk over to the window, looking out at the city below. The lights flicker. People move about their lives, oblivious to the turmoil that's consumed mine. I've been so wrapped up in my own pain that I've forgotten there's a world out there, full of life and opportunity. Maybe it's time to step back into it, to let go of the past and start living again. The idea of leaving this city, of starting fresh somewhere new, has been tugging at the back of my mind for a while now. There's nothing keeping me here, nothing anchoring me to this place. The thought of a new city, a new job, a new life, away from the memories, the ghosts of what was, brings a flicker of hope. It's small, but it's there, and it's enough to make me consider it seriously. I've always been a planner, someone who thinks things through, but maybe it's time to be spontaneous, to take a leap of faith. The man I was would have never considered leaving everything behind, but the man I am now, the man I'm becoming, knows that sometimes you have to burn it all down to start anew. Maybe that's what I need, a clean slate, a chance to rebuild without the weight of the past dragging me down. I make a decision, a quiet resolve settling over me. I'm going to leave. I don't know where I'll go yet, but I know that staying here, in this city filled with memories of betrayal and pain, isn't an option anymore. It's time to move on, to find something new, something better. I need to figure out who I am without the shadow of revenge hanging over me, and I can't do that here. I start making a list in my head, things to sell, things to keep, loose ends to tie up. There's not much holding me here, but I'll need to wrap up a few things before I can leave. The thought of packing up my life, of saying goodbye to this chapter, is bittersweet. There were good times here, before everything went to hell, but I can't dwell on that. It's time to look forward, not back. As I mentally prepare for what's to come, I think about Rebecca. I haven't spoken to her since that last conversation, haven't felt the need to. She's part of the past I'm leaving behind, but I can't deny that she's also part of the man I've become. The love we once shared, the betrayal that followed, it's all shaped me, for better or worse. But I can't let that define me anymore. It's time to let go, to forgive, not her but myself. I need to forgive myself for the choices I made, for the anger that consumed me, for the time I wasted chasing revenge. Only then can I truly move on. The next few weeks pass in a blur of activity. I sell what I don't need, pack up the rest, and prepare to leave the city behind. It's a strange feeling, watching my life shrink down to a few boxes, knowing that I'm about to embark on a journey with no clear destination. But it's also exhilarating, a reminder that I'm in control of my future, that I can shape it however I want. On my last night in the city, I take a walk through the streets, saying a quiet goodbye to the places that once meant so much to me. The restaurant where Rebecca and I had our first date, the park where I proposed, the building where I confronted Richard, all of them hold memories, some sweet, some bitter, but I let them go as I walk, leaving them behind like footprints in the sand. When I return to my apartment, I feel lighter, freer than I have in months. The city has given me what it could, but now it's time to move on, to find something new. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I'm excited to find out. The next morning, I load up my car and take one last look at the apartment that's been my refuge these past months. There's no sadness, no regret, just a quiet resolve. I'm ready for whatever comes next. As I drive away, the city fading in the rearview mirror, I think about the man I've become. I'm not the same person who walked into that party all those months ago, and I'll never be him again. But that's okay. I've been through the fire, and I've come out the other side stronger, wiser, and ready to start anew. The road stretches out before me, open and full of possibilities. I don't know where it will lead, but I'm ready to find out. I'm ready to write the next chapter of my life, one that's not defined by betrayal or revenge, but by hope, by possibility, by the promise of something better. As I drive into the unknown, the future feels wide open, and for the first time in a long time, I'm not afraid. I'm ready to face whatever comes next, knowing that I've survived the worst and come out the other side. The past is behind me, and the future is mine to shape. And as I speed down the highway, leaving everything behind, I feel a sense of peace, of closure, of anticipation for what's to come. The story of my revenge is over, but the story of my life is just beginning, and I'm ready to embrace it, scars and all.